Hey kids, the Monday Movie Club is expanding. We are continuing our new project. Each of the 5 core group has recommended movies we're going to watch every week. I'm Frank Gaffney. Here with me is Amy Goldman, Joel Fenster, Mark Wotitz Gartner, who's in a snowstorm right now, Annie King, who's back home. Hey there. And our special guests making up our Hateful 8, Dan Friedman, wave to the people, Jeff Pliskin, who has some crooks behind him, and Danielle Testori Gartner, calling from the den.
Are you supposed to say no relation, right? Is that?
I know, like Mrs. Wotitz. I don't know. Is that?
I think, yeah. I don't know how much she's willing to admit it. Okay, so today we're discussing one of Joel's choices, The Hateful Eight, which happens to be, it said the 8th film from Quentin Tarantino, but we're going to dispute that because Kill Bill was 2 movies. Hello.
He considers it one.
Nobody else does.
Mark does.
Yes.
No, because you can't get it as one movie. It's never one movie. It's always 2 separate movies.
It's been shown that way. It's just not available for anybody else to view that way right now.
They've never even packaged them together, the 2 films?
Nope.
No.
He keeps threatening to do it, but
Unless you go to Joel's house and watch it all in one day.
It's
okay, so as always, we're going to begin with why did you pick this one, oh Emperor Lord King of Geek Dork Nerd?
Really just to annoy you, Frank, because I know you don't like the movie.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well played.
But I did watch it. So,
yes, but you watched the theatrical version.
Yeah.
Watch
but I actually did watch the miniseries when it first came to Netflix because I thought, all right, so it's slow enough, so maybe it's interesting. It wasn't.
It was.
All right. So
well, I'll tell you why I picked this movie.
Okay, go.
One of my favorite novels is Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, and this movie reminded me a lot of that.
Sure.
And I love mysteries that are structured in that manner. You don't really know what's going on until the author wants you to know what's going on. And I think, for me, don't get me wrong, this is not Tarantino's best film. It's not necessarily even my favorite of his films, but
that would be Jackie Brown.
It would be Jackie Brown. But I really enjoy it. And I've seen it a number of times at this point. When it came out in the theaters, I actually took a road trip to go see it in 70 millimeter at the closest theater that was playing it. And that was just a blast to, see a movie in a theater with an overture and an intermission music and you got a program and everything was really cool because it had been eons since I had done anything like that. And it's unfortunate that version's not available for viewing anywhere.
Yeah, because then we could watch it again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would. It's a well-structured mystery to me. It kind of starts to fizzle out towards the end when, the Tarantino violence takes over and there's exploding heads and, more blood than you really need to see. But I think it's perfectly cast. I think it's well acted, well directed. It's a beautiful film. I know that we were just talking before we started about Morricone's score, but it's the first CD of a movie score that I had bought in like 3 years because I walked out of the theater with that theme running through my head, and I just love it. And I know that he got the Oscar because he hadn't gotten one ever.
And by he, you mean Morricone.
But I think it's a well-deserved Oscar for that score, even though it's not completely original because they used tracks from the Thing as well as The Exorcist 2. And this movie is also very reminiscent of The Thing, which is also a great movie. People trapped in a cabin, slowly going crazy over being together and not knowing who is really the bad guy, kind of thing.
And Kurt Russell.
Exactly. Who is doing
one of the things I read was that he wanted to just turn that scene and minis into a play. He thought it would be a good stage play.
and it would be a great stage play. And I love the cast. I love
I'd
that.
hate to be the stage manager having to clean up all that blood every night, but whatever.
And the jelly beans.
And the jelly beans. I think it'd be more the jelly beans because as they skitter across the stage. But it's just a fun film. I just really enjoy watching it. And as I said, I've seen all 3 versions at this point. I actually watched the extended version, which would be much better if it wasn't broken up into 4 episodes. I think there's really only like 20 minutes of extra footage that he added back. And some of it's interesting because it expands on some of the characterizations and motivations, specifically like at the beginning of the film with Major Warren haggling with OB about getting on the stagecoach and moving the bodies and stuff like that. There's a real conversation about making that deal that doesn't exist in the theatrical version. There's more about the chicken plucking and Mexican Bob in the extended version. And it's just all little stuff that just adds up and makes it more of a rounded piece for some of the characters. But the Netflix version is bloated because it's 4 50+ minutes episodes that each have their own opening and closing credits, have a recap. Once you get rid of that stuff, it would flow a lot better. One of the things that I still miss in watching it is seeing the film in theaters. The intermission came right after the death of I'm blanking on his name. I want to say Colonel Sanders, but Colonel Smithers.
General.
And when it comes back from the intermission is when you have that narration by Tarantino, and this is what you missed in the last 15 minutes. And it's kind of a joke because it makes sense that you've just been outside the theater for 15 minutes waiting for it to start again. And now it's just kind of like this weird throwaway narration that comes in out of nowhere. Yeah, I enjoy the film. It's a lot of fun. It's well structured. It's well cast. That's all I got about it. So.
All right, can I do my nits to pick?
Wait,
Please.
Joel, how many stars?
Oh,
Wait,
3.5.
Look,
Three and a half.
I was going to come back to Joel.
Okay, it's 3.5. Solid
Okay.
3.5.
All right, so of course, now, yes, of course, it was a 70 millimeter. He was very, wet dream to have, that kind of, scope to deal with. But, on the small screen, obviously, to have to deal with seeing all those vistas and the first thing with the 3 minutes of that crucifix in the middle of nowhere. And this is the beginning of the excess and why the movie's almost 3 hours long.
That's an amazing shot, though. I love
Yeah,
that.
but how long do we need to say it? Not 3
I
minutes.
agree.
It doesn't matter. It's to me, it sets the tone of the film.
Yeah. I thought it was a really fast 3 hours too. I mean, did not feel like 3 hours.
And at at first, the driver of the stagecoach calls Sam Jackson a black fella.
Yeah.
I guess Quentin Tarantino was saving all his N-words for later. I think the only reason he set the movie in the 1860s was so he could say the N-word 35 times.
Actually, 1877.
I'm sorry, 1877. But at least it was less than the 110 times that he used the word in Django Unchained. And why would Kurt Russell give Sam Jackson, the black fella, a ride? He's just a nice guy.
Was it the Abraham Lincoln letter?
Yeah.
It was that.
And don't forget, they had a history. Remember, they shared a steak dinner once, so he did kind of know him.
And you could see some kindness in him with the way he was dealing with what's her nuts too.
Right, as long as you weren't a
She's like,
woman.
"All right."
You're right. What's worse?
Did we have to
Ben.
watch Jennifer Jason Leigh and her stinky ass teeth? Those are gross. And lick
But when you
blood.
get beat in the face that much,
Oh goodness! And lick the blood off her face for a whole 30 seconds. Like, well, annoying. And how do the horses and the stagecoach get through those unplowed roads? Can you people in the north explain to me how is it that easy to get through the snow?
Everything's been salted.
Oh, I see. Somebody
horsepower.
went through before.
Yeah.
Whenever I ride my horses to work, it usually works. So
The previous.
Well, when they get to the haberdashery, there was another stagecoach that come in that morning through the same road.
Oh, so he already
He
went.
followed-
They follow
the
both
road.
tracks.
And that
Oh, so they-
stagecoach actually technically had 7 horses if you count Lee Horsley. Never mind.
And so then Kurt punches Jennifer out the stagecoach, of course, exactly at the right time to pick up another passenger who would help move the plot along.
Right.
And then Kurt gives him a ride too, because obviously, and he doesn't even like Walton Goggins, but he gives him a ride anyway. But I do love Walton Goggins. The Shield, Justified, and that sitcom where his wife died. What was that?
Unicorn.
Unicorn. And then we finally get to Minnie's, and it's already been an hour of the movie till we get there. And then it becomes a frontier edition of Big Brother. Everybody's trying to last to the end and outsmart everybody. But instead of getting voted out here, you get killed. That works. And then, of course, in these scenes, the part of Christoph Waltz will be played by Tim Roth.
Except the part was written for Tim Roth.
Yeah, it's a Christoph part.
Maybe Christoph was playing the Tim Roth part in the other movies.
Maybe. And the scene with the rope and the rods. Here's another example of he's got this vista and he wants to fill the screen by showing all the snow and everything. And that was like 20 minutes long. We didn't have to see them put every stake in the ground and rope every bit of it. Sorry.
Didn't bother me.
Didn't bother me.
Fast
Joel,
forward.
I thought was more interesting because there was something to do. There was business. It was the crucifix. It was the stagecoach that went from one side of your screen to the other with the music and the just too much. Like the putting of the stakes didn't bother me because there was something to do to watch.
I mean, if you've got, he's using a frame, a super wide frame that has not been used in a bazillion years. The last film was Khartoum in the 60s with Charlton Heston, that used the Ultra Panavision 70, and it is the widest commercially available scope, the aspect ratio that they have. So you're going to use that. You use it. You play with it. You go to the hilt with it because you need to. You need to show off the use of it in those vistas. I think it's a beautiful film, and stuff like that never bothers me.
And the idea is you want to, I mean, you know,
because you're a film geek and you love that kind of shit.
but you also want to get across that. I mean, I'm watching it and I'm shivering because I'm like, oh my God, it is so cold. Like they are so cold. And that was the whole point. I
It's
mean,
like 44 degrees. I'm freezing.
Florida, yes.
But like when they put the stakes in the ground,
that takes me to the naked guy in the snow. How did he not get frostbite?
Oh, yeah, I totally thought that. Totally.
at least shrinkage.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't see any shrinkage, or if there was shrinkage,
It wasn't
good luck
real
for him.
snow.
And then, right, so you explained a little bit about the narration, but it really just came out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, good Lord. Now, this is the one thing. It's like, you know, I'm a fan of Quentin Tarantino's. I really am. And I know, you know, Joel, you certainly are too. But I feel like Quentin Tarantino is a bigger fan of Quentin Tarantino's than any of us.
Yes.
Well, yes, that is true.
And the whole day, I did read this bit about Kurt Russell smashing the guitar. I had to watch that scene 3 times just to see her reaction. Because she's like, wait a minute, that's not the... Oh,
$40,000.
that was great.
It amazes me that they actually had 6 replicas on set, and yet nobody was able to replace it before.
I think Kurt Russell, I guess Kurt Russell didn't know she didn't have the fake one.
Yeah.
So anyway, they didn't they pay for it? Something. Anyway, and then God help me, Sam Jackson says, let's slow it way down. I seriously want to shoot myself. Like, no, please don't go any slower. And if Channing Tatum was under the floorboards the entire time, why didn't he shoot people sooner? Please. Just to move the shit
They were
along.
waiting for the right opportunity. They knew they were going to be stuck there for 2 to 3 days. They were waiting for the right opportunity to make it happen.
Could have killed them at any time.
not like he had the only gun in the house. There were a lot.
Well,
of
wait a minute. If
people
he's under the floorboards, does that mean he can go anywhere under the entire floor, or is he stuck right where he is under the floorboards? Because then you have to wait.
We
for
don't know how.
someone-
Depends how big the cellar was.
Then
Yeah.
you have to
we
wait
don't
for
know
someone to
how
be
big the cellar
standing
is.
right above you in the perfect shot that you can get him.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
They don't show you the finished basement with the wet bar and the pool table.
Yeah, he was fine down there. He was like having a good time. He's like, All right. And then we get the flashback scene. And again, with the Vista, we get 2 minutes of that stagecoach driving the minis. But we know that's where they're going. We know exactly where it's headed, but we have to see all the beautiful shots and the beautiful scenes. All right. And again with the ridiculous narration, I'm just gonna read my script out loud. It's so pretty. That's what he was thinking. And then all the chapters are numbered except for the final chapter. It's called the last chapter because now he's thinking people are going to leave if I don't tell them it's going to be over soon. I'm going to say last chapter. This way they'll stay to watch the end.
They should have
And
just put a
so,
subtitle. They should have just said, "Please stay 20 more minutes." you know?
Yes, we just have they have a little clock in
Let's
the bottom,
wrap this
20
up.
minutes to go.
Countdown clock.
All right, so while I get his intention and I did enjoy the mystery of it, yeah, I definitely could have easily taken 20 minutes out of this movie. And but I'm still giving it 3 stars. I did enjoy it. I'm making fun of it, but I didn't hate it. And it was just too long for me. So I'm giving it 3 stars. Who would like to go next? All right, Dan, go ahead. You go next.
you want me to- okay.
We'll go to one of
Well,
our
I mean,
guests.
I really liked it. I mean, I same kind of the similar reasons. I love the whole idea of, strangers trapped in a location and one or more of them are not who they appear to be, and how are you going to
Right.
figure it out?
I think it would make a good play.
Yeah, I think so too. But I love, and what I liked about this one. I don't think it's his best movie, but it's I think one of his better movies. At least for me, for Tarantino, is that he didn't, other than the narration, he didn't insert himself into it like he usually does, where he gives himself a part and everybody goes, "Why is he?"
Thank God he didn't
Yeah.
give himself a part.
Yeah, thank God for that. After his Django Unchained character, but I really, this was like purely coincidental, but I happened to have paused it. It was exactly the halfway point in the movie. The movie's 2 hours and 47 minutes, and I paused it at like 1:23 just for a minute, and I realized that halfway through the movie, it's right after that all the deaths start. You don't see any of it until in the entire first half. It's literally halfway through the movie, which I have.
So we
to
get
believe
we get half of a hour, 1 hour and 27 minutes of exposition.
I guess, yeah. But I liked, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we all know Tarantino does stuff that nobody else could get away with. Probably how he still gets away with it is kind of a mystery a little bit. I mean, the way that Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, it's a gag. I mean, the running gag is that she keeps getting hit in the face with Stu, his fist, the gun, like, in the end when they shoot her brother and his brains end up
Someone's brains.
I mean, everything ends up like covering her face, and it was like that's it's a long payoff, but like that's a really sick
No
joke.
misogyny going on here at all.
No, but I mean, could anybody else do that right now? Probably not. But he has a reputation to live up to. I mean, when he blows Mexican Bob's head off, does his head really need to come off? Of course not. And he even makes the joke about it later. He goes, we can't collect the bounty on him now because I freaking blew his head off. And it's that kind of stuff where, the first time I watched it, I really enjoyed it, but it didn't, like, a lot of that stuff didn't stick with me. The vistas did. I remember thinking, wow, this looks like a beautifully shot movie.
Maybe that's the problem. I never saw it in the movie theater.
The second time around, I was able to sort of pay attention because I really had forgotten, honestly, which may or may not be a positive for it, is that I had forgotten a lot of the details of the plot. And then as they started coming back to me, and I went, oh, right, this, so I was almost kind of watching it like the story for the first time because I had forgotten so much of it. And then I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember who the guy is who did poison the coffee. Like I completely forgot. So it was like I was watching it again for the first time.
Dan, I
Um,
believe that's early onset Alzheimer's. I think that's.
It
what
might be. It might also be that I've just been watching a lot of stuff lately, so it all blends together. But I mean, I definitely it's definitely 3 stars. I could give it 3.5. I think it's, you know, of all of his films, it's one that I appreciate a little bit because I get what he was trying to do, and like that counts for a lot. You know, with the score and with the
I
cinematography.
I just
Yeah.
wish he would have succeeded more.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did. I mean, there are a lot of his films. You know, I'm not the biggest Tarantino fan, and this is not, I think, his best one, but I think it's better than some others that people would probably rank above it. As a matter of course, I think it's better.
Wait, there's 10 now, I think, right?
Fine.
9.
9, unless you count Bill.
Unless
It's
you count
10.
Kill, yeah.
Well, Once Upon a Time, isn't that in Hollywood? Isn't that number 10?
No, number 9.
9.
That's number 9.
He doesn't count Kill Bill as 2 movies. He counts it as 1.
Right.
Okay. So there's not much to choose from if
Yeah.
we're ranking them.
No, but I mean,
Everybody
I mean,
send me your list of rankings of the 10 movies and I will put them in order.
You put them in your order, or
This
Yeah.
calls for a spreadsheet.
Is Pulp Fiction generally at the top of the list?
Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah.
Pulp
Except for
Fiction and
Joel,
Pulp Fiction and
because
Reservoir
Jackie Brown
Dogs are
is
usually
better.
1, 2. Some people put one. It's like usually, I mean, Pulp Fiction is usually number 1, and then it's somewhere. It's some combination of Reservoir Dogs and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Except for Joel, who puts Jackie Brown at number 1.
it's my favorite of his. So
Except for me, who have only seen Pulp Fiction.
Nice.
see, so Annie already skews your spreadsheet.
All right, so Annie, if you're let's go to you next, since you're the newbie here.
Yep, this was my first time watching it, and it's not my type of movie, really. I like the scenery. I was like, wow, it's so pretty, but cold. Who would want to live there? Okay.
Well, you're living it right now, right?
Well, not as much snow, thank God. Because traveling in snow, whether by horse or car, is just not nice. So, but it's not my type of movie. I get like the mystery part and stuff. I like, you know, National Treasure better, where you kind of have to figure out the clues and the pieces, or.
That will be coming up later this year.
Oh, goody. Yeah, I like that
You
one.
picked it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, or even the last one on Netflix that I watched with Ryan Reynolds.
Red Notice.
Red
Yeah,
Notice?
Red Notice, or like Ocean's 11, those kind of things that go back and forth. And those, I like those better.
Well, those have a different kind of humor than this one for sure.
Yeah, this didn't really, yeah. Okay, so who are the Hateful Eight was my question. Which
The
eight?
eight main characters in the movie.
There's 9.
They're
Which
all
is one of my
hateful.
nits. There's 9.
10 characters.
No, we don't count Kill Bill as 2 movies.
No, technically there's 10 characters, not 9, because you have OB.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
There the whole
He's number
time,
9.
and Channing Tatum's in the basement the whole time.
He's not into the last bit. He's not a main character.
Yeah, but he's
Oh, the
still
other 8 are the Hateful Eight.
Yeah,
OB is the
so-
main one.
I was also thinking that I didn't really get a lot of the background, so I guess maybe I have to go and watch the extended version. Not, but I didn't feel like that some of the characters really got explained out, you know, as much as I would have wanted it to.
That's why you got to watch the 4-hour version.
No, it's okay. I don't care that much.
So did he only make this the Hateful Eight because it was his 8th film?
probably.
Right. That I thought about that too when it says this is the 8th film at the very beginning.
And he's like this with the title card. Good boy.
Yeah.
How clever of me.
Yes.
As I
All right,
thought,
so
I thought the actors were good, you know, and they did a great job on that and everything. But to me, I'd give it a 3 because I watched it and
I got through it.
I
Is that
didn't
like
hate it.
I took
I
the
didn't-
SATs and put my name on the paper, so I got an automatic 200.
I didn't hate it. I could go down to a 2.75 because it's just not my thing, but I didn't hate it, so I would give it a 3.
Danielle, did you not hate it?
I really liked it. I liked hearing Joel, you saying that you saw it in the movies with the playbill and the intermission. So I understand a little, and the camera being special. So I understand a little bit more of the things that I didn't like watching it at home, like seeing all the vistas. And I agree with you, Frank. It's just too much for me personally. It was like, okay, we get it. You're cold. It's beautiful. Move on, like move the story on a little bit. So, and the score did nothing for me, unfortunately. The cowboy kind of folk music went right through my head. I'm sorry that the guy won an Oscar for it or whatever, but just didn't do it for me.
But it did harken back to those, westerns of the 1960s. It did. It
Oh,
had
sure.
that, it had that
I get the feel
Yeah.
and the vibe. It's just not my feel or vibe. And I understand why it was there, but just didn't do it for me. But I really enjoyed, and I think we've said it a couple of times here, but I said it to Mark while we were watching it, when they finally get to minis and you don't know who anybody is. And it's the shot of just everybody in that room and everybody's at their specific chair doing their specific business. There was not even dialogue at that point. And you're trying to figure out who's who. I don't trust these people. What's the deal? Who are these people? What's the relationship? And I turned to Mark and I said, this could be a play. Like, this is awesome. Like, I'm just watching everybody and seeing all their business, who's making coffee, who's, playing cards, whatever it was, trying to just figure it out. And I absolutely loved that. I love the dialogue. I love the relationship of the characters. I could have stood for a little bit less language, but that's Tarantino. So I knew what I was signing up for. And the violence, some of it to me is comical and over the top. And again, Tarantino, just what you signed up for. So I enjoyed it. And rating, I'm going to say 3.5.
Mark, you agree
I go 3.25.
with this woman who you have no relation to?
No relation at all. She's not sitting in the room next door to me. First off, for me, I love Bob. He was my favorite character. I think he was just funny. I just loved his intonations. I had a few problems, just like most people here. First one is what I just said. There's 9 people. I'm sorry, but OB was 9 people interacting. So, like we just said, I think they just named it the Hateful Eight because it's the 8th film and it rhymes, right? The Hateful Eight. So, anyway.
So it's the Hateful 9 for you?
Yes, it is.
We should have had one more panelist then.
Yeah, you're right. Wait till we get to Ocean's 11. Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
The entire opening.
13 going on 30. Was it somebody's 13 film?
Oh, Jesus. I thought the entire opening scene of them before they got to the cabin, I thought that should have been cut and maybe shown in a flashback. That's just me. It took way too long. And I found once they got to the cabin, it was very interesting. Like Danielle just said too, it's like a play, you're watching this and that. And it got, even though it was slow moving, it was very intense. The opening scene with, when he had those, just the music and you just see the vistas and what else did I have a problem with? Oh, just all the N-bombs and everything like that. It was almost like he's just saying, in case you forgot, this is a Tarantino movie. That was the effect I got. Some of to me, some parts were so telegraphed when Kurt Russell was holding the Lincoln letter. I was like, she's going to spit on it. She's going to spit on that. Why is he doing this? She spits on it. When he was dying and he was wrestling with Donahue too, I was like, he's going to spit blood all over her face and the mouth is going to be open. I could have written this. I was like, it's so obvious. So some of that stuff I thought was just not well done. Having said all of that, I as I just said, I thought the entire scene at Minnie's and the flashback of the gang getting there, I thought it was great. The fact that it was slow paced didn't bother me at all. It was a murder mystery building up, and I was in. So to me, if it was a 2 hour and 20, if they had shaved off 20 minutes mostly out of that opening scene, it would have been easily 3.5 stars, if not more.
I agree.
That's it for me.
I agree. Mr. Pliskin, what do you think?
It was my first time seeing it, and I am, as my wife will tell you, not very good at first time watching and catching all the nuances and the details and so on.
Amy feels the same way.
Yeah, but that said, I watched it in 2 broken up segments, like Dan described doing it. I think I just sort of got distracted or had to stop for something. But both of them went very fast for me, and it was just one of those films where I just couldn't wait to see what happens next, what gets revealed next. So I mean, I really enjoyed the story, the environment, the long shots of the the exteriors and so on. Didn't bother me. It just sort of, the environment there was like another character in the story. And all I remember was thinking about what it must have been like, not only to be there as the characters were, but just, what it must have been like to film this thing in such an unforgiving environment. But I'm gonna sound very dumb right now, but if someone could tell me the Lincoln letter, which Samuel Jackson says was bullshit, was it bullshit or was it really a letter from Lincoln?
It was bullshit.
Bullshit.
It's
bullshit.
bullshit. Okay. Because I mean, it figures right up until the very last scene where, where the letter gets read again. So I thought maybe I missed something here, or he was bullshit. He was saying it was bullshit just so that nobody would kill him for it or whatever,
Yeah, he used it. He says in the middle of the film, he wrote it himself so that he used it to get credit with white people. So
Okay.
they'd be more impressed with him. They'd be disarmed by him. That gain their trust.
Well,
Which
I
is
mean,
why Kurt Russell is so upset about it, because he fell for it.
Yeah.
okay. Well, Jennifer Jason Leigh, I'm not a fan of hers, but it was actually good to see her get so beat up and spat on and bled on and whatever. But
Is there anybody else you'd like to see beat up and spat on?
there's
Tucker
someone.
Carlson.
What's that?
Tucker Carlson.
But no, I mean, I love the actors. I thought they were.
Well, she got nominated for an Oscar for her performance.
She did. Well, I guess for what she had to put up with, she deserved at least a nomination. No, I just thought it was a great story. I laughed through so much of the over-the-top violence, and Deborah was in the room briefly and had to walk out of the room. She just really had no patience for it at all. But no, I like Tarantino. Would say he's one of my favorite directors, but I enjoy his work. So I'd give it a solid 3. It was a little bit long, but I give it a solid 3.
Aim, are you in agreement?
With
It should
Jeff?
be a three-star movie for everybody, mostly.
I know, it's not a 3-star movie for me. It's a 3.5-star movie for me. I'm with
I
Joel.
hated it. 3.5 stars.
Hated it. I'm with Joel in that I saw it in 70 millimeter with the intermission. I think that's how I think I saw it across the street. So that's the way I got to see it. And I just loved it at the time. And I just loved everything about it at the time. So let me just take a quick look at my notes. Oh my God, did I want to eat stew when I was watching it? So good. I did
you
not
also want to
find-
spit it in somebody's face?
Yeah, sure. Well, I always do that. I didn't really find it funny, all the slapstick and over the top grossness. And I thought Jennifer Jason Leigh was so over the top in her acting. I was shocked that she was nominated for an Oscar. I didn't like her at all, but I did love the fact that she was in the movie. I was like, oh my God, Jennifer Jason Leigh, how fun. The flashback scene, I remember my mouth dropping in the theater at how amazing it was to flash back and see who these people really were. I loved it. And Joel, in the original in the theater, wasn't there a scene where somebody actually walks to the outhouse and you see them do that long walk out and how hard it was?
Yeah,
I thought so too.
Mark,
They-
you remember that too, right?
I do.
OB. They send OB to drop the guns down the
Yeah, he drops them down the tree.
green hole.
But we didn't see that on Netflix, did we?
I think we
I don't-
did. I remember seeing it.
I don't
mean,
remember
You didn't see him make the whole walk. You see him like leave and then get to you see him dumping
Yeah.
it, and then you see him come back.
Oh, okay. I feel like we definitely saw more of that then.
I
And-
agree.
Yeah, and Dan, what you were saying, I completely agree with. When I went into the movie, I only remembered something about the stagecoach going to the haberdashery. I didn't really remember it until I watched it. I was like, oh my God, I so remember this, but I didn't remember the story at all until it happened. So I too have the Alzheimer's, I guess.
Yeah.
This is my
Everything is
7th.
new again.
Yeah, this is my 7th Tarantino movie out of 10 because I did see Kill Bill 1, but I didn't see 2. I didn't really like Kill Bill. I really like Tarantino. This isn't my favorite of his movies. That would definitely be Pulp Fiction, and I think Django is my 2nd. But I just love the way he writes. I think his writing is brilliant, and to me, it never felt it's 2 hours and 47 minutes until the end. With like the killing of Daisy was like, God, get on with it. And then hanging her was just ridiculous.
He
Other than
he
that-
swung for a long time.
I know.
But you know what? There were two moments. It's just, if you don't mind, there were two things that, as Mark kind of said, there were a lot of things that were really predictable, especially if like a Tarantino movie. But there were two moments. They were both Walton Scoggins that I thought were great. One was when Michael Madsen says, "Yeah, I poisoned the coffee," and he does that big cartoony, "I fucking knew it," like reaction, which I thought was hysterical. I don't know why I laughed at that more than anything else. But the bit towards the end when they're trying to get inside his head and make the deal with him, and I completely forgot about this, but like they're having that whole thing, and then he says, "You were going to let me drink the coffee," and that's why he goes back on it. I thought, well, that was brilliant.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
even though it happened, half an hour ago or whatever. I was like, oh, of course he's not going to take the deal for that. And I thought that was some. I was impressed with how he flipped the story a little bit, like in that moment. Because you really don't know. I mean, I was sitting there going, what does he do? I don't remember what he does.
Yeah, I didn't remember. And I thought for
Right.
sure he's going to take the deal. And then when he said that, I was like, oh my God.
Right.
It was brilliant.
Same reaction.
So as with most of his movies, I loved it. 3.5 stars.
I think then when the Carriage House finally gets going, we'll do the play version inside Minnie's haberdashery. and Danielle could be Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Awesome. I'll get my teeth ready.
Could you? That'd be great.
might even
Joel,
get
you have
a
any
face
final
mask.
thoughts before we wrap up?
Just based on everybody's reactions to the film, I think this was. I think one of the reasons that Tarantino has not released the 70 millimeter version on home video is because he meant it to be seen in the theaters. And having seen it in the theaters, and I know Amy saw it in the theaters, and Dan, you said you saw it in 70 millimeter too?
Yeah.
It's
Originally,
one of those films that, I have a big screen here, and even on that, you're still distracted by things. I think in a movie theater, this is the sign that you need to see a movie in the theater. You are not distracted by anything except for the guy eating popcorn and talking behind you, and you are encapsulated by those vistas. You are enraptured by what is going on in front of you, to the point where this is where you live now. It's the only other time I've had that experience was the first time I saw Lawrence of Arabia in a movie theater. And there's nowhere to go, and you're just watching, and you are engrossed in what's going on. And I think those of you that saw it for the first time on home video and didn't like those aspects of it probably would have appreciated them more in the movie theater. But
It looked great on a big, just a big widescreen, TV at home. But Joe, I don't know how you could say you're distracted watching it at home with only like 3,000 character action figures staring at you from your shelves.
But it's also, you kind of have to know. You also kind of have to know what you're getting into. I mean, it's a Quentin Tarantino movie. That means certain things are going to happen.
Yeah, no.
Are going to happen.
Yeah.
So
No,
you can't really be surprised by that.
definitely I appreciate that for sure. But now that you've compared it to Lawrence of Arabia, I've never seen that in the movie theater, and I never thought they were just doing this just for the sake of a 70 millimeter projection.
We'll put Lawrence of Arabia on the list for next year and have that discussion then. I both agree and disagree with you on that comment. It's a film that I've seen it many times. I've seen it at home on my theater screen. I've seen it in the theater. It is in a very engrossing film, and I didn't mean to compare this specifically to that in that sense. So
Right.
Joel, if you're going to make me watch Lawrence of Arabia, I'm coming over to watch it on your big screen.
Yeah.
not a problem. Anytime.
Okay.
Yes, we should. All right. So thank you all for today. Next week, it's Annie's Choice, 13 going on 30, which is a Jennifer Garner comedy from 2004. A little different from the one we just watched.
It's a little different.
And certainly a lot shorter. So thank you again. And I'm Frank Gaffney. Go watch a movie.
And also with you.
No big whoop.